She said, "Stop being jealous." In that dismissive tone she used whenever she wanted me to feel small. But the truth was simple. I wasn't jealous. I was observant. And the only reason I stayed quiet was because she kept leaving clues behind like someone who'd forgotten she wasn't living alone. Hook. She thought I was blind. I was just waiting for the right table, the right audience, the right moment to let everything speak for itself. If you like stories like this, subscribe for more, because this one goes places people don't come back from. I remember the moment everything shifted. Not one big explosion. Just a detail so small most husbands wouldn't have noticed. A silver bracelet, her favorite one, the one she always claimed she never took off except at home. I found it sitting on the sticky wooden counter of a bar she supposedly had never set foot in. It didn't hit me like a punch. It landed like confirmation. Something quiet, something cold. Like the moment you realize the person next to you isn't who they pretend to be. I picked it up without asking questions. Didn't text her. Didn't call. Didn't even wonder why she had lied. Instead, I put it in a small wooden box I kept in my closet. A box she never bothered to open because it held things she had long stopped caring about. Old movie tickets, a seashell from our first beach trip, the little paper crane she made on our second date. Now it held something new, something heavy. I didn't accuse her. That's the thing most people don't understand about men like me. When we're quiet, it doesn't mean we accept it. It means we're taking inventory. She came home late that night, smelling like citrus perfume and cold outside air, laughing a little too loudly at a joke I didn't get to hear. "Why were you awake?" she asked, dropping her bag like her day didn't need explaining. "Couldn't sleep," I said. She kissed my cheek, distracted, careless. Her eyes were elsewhere. I just watched her walk to the shower, humming someone else's tune. The next day she texted me she had a late shift. My friend Mark, who works security in the same district, sent me a picture 2 hours later. Her car, parked next to a black Lexus belonging to a man she once called just a guy from the office. They weren't at her workplace. They were at that same bar. Again, I didn't react, didn't confront, didn't explode. I simply added the photo to the box. Then came the receipt. A folded slip she must have shoved into her jacket pocket and forgotten about. 2 cocktails. 1 appetizer. 1 dessert. 2 spoons. Same bar. Same night she said she stayed late finishing reports. I placed it into the box. And then the note. A small torn piece of paper stuck in her purse, with handwriting I didn't recognize. Next Thursday? Same place. Same booth. That one hurt. Not because of the meeting itself, but because she didn't even try to hide it. She had already decided I wasn't worth the effort. When she got home that evening, she tossed her keys on the table and sighed dramatically. "You're quiet again," she said. "You really need to stop being jealous. It's exhausting." I looked at her, really looked. The woman I married wasn't someone who would call her husband paranoid for asking why she keeps disappearing. That woman was long gone, replaced by someone who treated the truth like an optional accessory. "Maybe I'm just thinking," I said. "About what?" she snapped, rolling her eyes. "About patterns." She laughed like I told a joke. And maybe I had. The thing is, once a person starts lying, they forget to stay consistent. But the truth is patient. It sits quietly in a box, waiting for a Sunday afternoon, when the table is full, and the masks come off whether someone wants them to or not. I didn't plan it, not at first, but when her mother called and invited us to Sunday lunch, something in my mind clicked into place. A stage, an audience, and finally, a moment she couldn't spin, manipulate, or laugh off. All I had to do was bring the box. And the truth. I didn't tell her about the lunch until the morning of. Partly because I wanted to see her natural reaction, and partly because I already knew she'd try to avoid it if she sensed anything was off. When I mentioned it over breakfast, she froze for half a second, just long enough for someone who actually pays attention to notice. "Sunday lunch? With my family?" she asked, stirring her coffee even though she never actually drinks it at home. "Why?" I shrugged, keeping my voice steady. "Your mom invited us. Figured it's been a while." She pressed her lips together and nodded. "Yeah, Sure. Fine. Then she got up from the table and walked away like she suddenly had a million things to do. I watched her from the doorway as she checked herself in the mirror, adjusting her hair, putting on lipstick for a simple lunch at her parents' house. It wasn't the grooming itself that bothered me. It was the nervous way she kept touching the side of her neck where that faint perfume she didn't wear for me still lingered. She didn't know the box was already in the trunk of my car. She didn't know Sunday wasn't just another lunch. She didn't know quiet men eventually draw lines, even if they draw them with steady hands. On the drive there, she talked too much. About work, about stress, about her boss, about how tired she was. Nothing important, nothing meaningful. Just noise filling the space where guilt sat in silence. "You're distracted," she said at one point. "I'm fine," I replied. "Just thinking." "Thinking what?" she pushed. "Patterns," I said again, watching her flinch just slightly. The way someone does when they recognize a word they're hoping never to hear. We pulled into her parents' driveway, and she inhaled like she was about to enter a courtroom instead of her childhood home. Her mom hugged her at the door, then hugged me longer, like she sensed something was wrong but didn't want to bring it up. Her dad was in the yard grilling, waving at us with a smile that made something twist in my chest, because he trusted me to treat his daughter right, and he trusted her to be the kind of woman who deserved that treatment. Inside, the house smelled like rosemary chicken and fresh bread. Familiar, warm, safe. A place where lies should feel out of place. But somehow they didn't anymore because she carried them in with her. "Eat, eat," her mom insisted, placing plates on the table, pouring lemonade, asking questions about work and plans and vacations we weren't going to take anymore. My wife kept answering quickly, stepping over details, rushing through sentences as if she was late for something. I watched her, not with anger, not with jealousy, with clarity. When her brother arrived, he made a joke about how she never visits anymore, and she laughed too loud again. Fake, brittle laughter. I saw her mother glance at her, then at me, like she was trying to put together a puzzle where the pieces looked almost right but fit all wrong. I waited until everyone had sat down. Waited until the plates were full. Waited until the normal hum of family conversation wrapped around us like a blanket she didn't deserve anymore. Then I stood up. "I brought something," I said quietly. She turned to me with confusion spreading across her face. "What are you doing?" she whispered. But I didn't answer. I walked to the hallway, opened the front door, and returned with the small wooden box. The same box she always ignored. The box that once held our memories and now held her choices. Her father looked up with mild curiosity. Her mother paused mid-sentence. Her brother leaned back in his chair, sensing tension before understanding it. My wife's face drained of color. She knew the box. She just never knew it could turn against her. I set it in the center of the table. Light, quiet, final. She swallowed hard. "What is that?" "Evidence," I said. Her breath hitched, and for the first time in months, she couldn't hide behind sarcasm or annoyance. Raw fear flickered across her eyes. She whispered, "What are you doing?" I didn't open the box yet. I simply rested my hand on the lid and looked at her, letting the silence stretch until I felt everyone's attention settle. Then I said, "You told me to stop being jealous." Her mother blinked. "Jealous? Of what?" My wife shook her head rapidly. "Don't do this," she hissed under her breath. "Please." But she had done this, not me. All I had done was watch her bury herself and wait until the right people were in the room to see what she'd become. Her brother glanced at her. "What's going on?" She looked around desperately, like she needed an exit that didn't exist. "Can we talk outside?" she asked me, reaching for my arm. Pulled it away gently. "No," I said. "We'll talk here." Her family stared, waiting, confused but bracing for impact. And the truth was about to arrive. Quiet, undeniable, and heavier than anything she could explain away. I lifted the lid slowly, not for dramatic effect but because the moment deserved care, the way you handle something fragile, something that can shatter lives with just a breath. Inside, the bracelet lay right on top, the silver catching a streak of sunlight from the kitchen window. My wife stared at it like it was a weapon. Maybe it was. Her mother leaned forward, confused. Sweetheart, isn't that the bracelet you said you lost at work? My wife's lips trembled. Mom, it's not what you think. I didn't give her space to gather excuses. I reached into the box and placed the bar counter photo next to the tray of roasted vegetables. The bracelet lying on that bar, plain as day. You told me you'd never been to that place, I said. The room went still, except for her father shifting in his chair. My wife swallowed hard. I might have stopped by once. I forgot. It's not a big deal. Her voice cracked. She was unraveling fast. But I wasn't done. I took out the next item. The printed parking lot photo my friend Mark had sent. Her car parked next to the black Lexus. Same bar. Same night she told me she worked late. I laid it gently beside the first photo. Her mother covered her mouth. Her father frowned. Her brother sat forward, elbows on knees. My wife shook her head again and again like she could shake the truth off her skin. That's not. He's just a coworker, she whispered. He gave me a ride. I didn't answer. Instead, I unfolded the receipt, the one with 2 cocktails, 1 dessert, 2 spoons. Her dad read it before she did. You were out drinking while telling us you were exhausted, he said quietly, disappointment sharpening his voice. She stared at the table, palms pressed against her thighs, knuckles white. I was stressed. I needed to unwind. With dessert and 2 spoons? Her brother asked. Who was the second spoon for? She jerked her head toward him. Stay out of this. He's family, her father said. He's already in it. My wife shot me a panicked look. Why are you doing this here? Why would you humiliate me in front of my family? I met her eyes calmly. Because it's the only place you can't lie your way out of. She clenched her jaw. You're doing this because you're jealous. I leaned back in my chair. Then stop leaving evidence, I said, letting the words settle coldly in the air. Her mother gasped softly, like she'd heard a confession. My wife looked like she'd been slapped. But the moment wasn't over. I slid the final piece out of the box. The torn handwritten note. Next Thursday. Same place. Same booth. Her father stared at it long and hard. Then at her. Is this real? She pressed her fingertips against her forehead, shaking. It's not what it looks like. Then tell us, her brother said. What does it look like? Her voice broke. He's someone I talk to. That's all. Her mother whispered. Oh, honey, no. I let the silence stretch. Her father's jaw remained tight, disappointment radiating off him like heat. Her mother looked like she was grieving something that hadn't even fully happened yet. My wife reached for my hand, but I moved it out of the way. She flinched like she'd touched a flame. Please, she whispered. We can talk about this later. Please don't do this now. Now is when it matters, I said. Now is when the truth can't hide. She blinked rapidly, tears forming. But they weren't the kind that come from guilt. They were the kind that come from being cornered. You don't understand, she said. It wasn't, he wasn't. Her father cut her off. Stop. Just stop. She looked at him, shocked, like the betrayal hurt her more coming from him than being revealed by me. Dad, I didn't raise you to lie to your husband, he said, or to carry on with some man from work. She flinched again. I'm not carrying on with anyone. Then explain the bracelet, he said. Explain the photos. Explain the note. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. Her brother leaned forward. Jesus, just admit it. You've been cheating. She slammed her hands on the table. I haven't. I swear. She turned to me, breathing hard. Tell them you're twisting things. Tell them this isn't what it looks like. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I spoke softly. I didn't twist anything. You left everything exactly where I could find it. Her mother whispered. How long has this been going on? My wife shook her head wildly. It's not, Mom, stop, please. Her father folded his hands, staring at her with the heaviness of a man watching something he believed in fall apart. I can't pretend this is nothing, he said. And neither should he. She turned back to me, a tiny desperate shake in her voice. Why didn't you just confront me privately? Because privately, I said, you would have lied. Her breath caught. She opened her mouth, but no words followed. The silence swallowed her whole. The room was heavy now. Not with anger, anger would have been easy. It was heavy with truth, with realization, with the kind of disappointment that doesn't go away. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand, but her tears didn't soften anything. They didn't erase the bracelet, or the receipts, or the note, or the late nights, or the fading perfume she didn't wear for me. She wasn't sorry. She was caught. And that makes a different kind of quiet. One nobody at that table would forget. Her breathing quickened, shallow and uneven. The way someone breathes when they're cornered with no version of the truth left to hide inside. She wiped her face again, smeared mascara streaking across her cheek, and looked around the table like she was searching for just one ally. One person who would defend her simply because she was crying. But nobody moved. Her mother stared down at the tablecloth, fingers trembling around a napkin she kept folding and unfolding. Her father held his jaw so tight it looked painful. Her brother leaned back, arms crossed, eyes fixed on her with a mixture of disbelief and anger. My wife swallowed hard, then dragged her hands through her hair, tugging at the roots like she could pull herself out of the moment by force. I wasn't cheating, she said finally, voice hoarse. I swear. Yes, I went there. Yes, I met him. But it wasn't what it looks like. Her father let out a dry, humorless breath. Then what was it? She hesitated. Too long. Long enough that the silence became its own answer. We were just talking, she whispered. Talking, her brother repeated, nodding slowly. At a bar. Night. Multiple times. Sharing dessert. Sitting in the same booth. Leaving notes. She shot him a glare. You don't understand anything. Then explain it, he snapped. Explain why your husband has a box full of proof while you have zero explanation. She pressed her hands to her face. I just needed someone to talk to. I was stressed. Work. Life. Everything. I felt stuck. She looked at me then, and for a moment her voice softened, like she hoped softness would save her. You've been so distant, so quiet. It felt like you didn't care anymore. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't give her a single emotional lifeline she could twist into justification. Instead, I said, and your solution was to lie to me? She shook her head frantically. I didn't lie. Not really. I just avoided things. Her father's chair scraped loudly against the floor as he sat up straighter. Avoided? You told me you lost that bracelet. You told your mother you were exhausted from work. You told your husband he was paranoid. She sniffed, voice cracking. Dad, please. But he didn't soften. He wasn't the type. No, he said. Not this time. Her mother finally spoke, voice small. Sweetheart, why didn't you come to us? Why didn't you talk to your husband before talking to... She paused, searching for a polite word. Him. My wife's shoulders slumped. Because I didn't want anyone telling me I was being stupid or reckless or unfair. I just wanted... escape. She looked at me again. You changed. You went quiet. You stopped asking about my days. You stopped touching me. The room tilted slightly as everyone turned their attention to me. I felt all their eyes, but I kept mine on her. I didn't stop because I didn't love you, I said. I stopped because every time I asked anything, you called me jealous or controlling. And every time I tried to be close to you, you pulled away. She blinked fast, her breath trembling. I didn't pull away. I was just tired. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You weren't tired. You were somewhere else. A harsh silence followed. The kind that breaks something inside people. She opened her mouth again, but before she could speak, her brother slammed his palm onto the table, startling everyone. God, just admit it, he yelled. You cheated. She jumped, tears spilling down her face. I didn't sleep with him. Yet, he shot back. You were halfway there and you know it. She covered her mouth with both hands, sobbing harder now. But still the tears didn't feel like confession. They felt like panic, like she couldn't control the narrative for the first time. Her mother stood and reached for her shoulder, but my wife jerked away, as if even comfort hurt her now. "Stop looking at me like I'm a monster," she cried. "I just needed attention. I needed someone to listen." Her father's voice dropped to a low, cold rumble. "You had a husband who would have done anything for you." She looked at me again then, eyes red and overflowing. "You could have talked to me," she said. "You could have told me you were feeling distant." "I tried," I replied. "You told me to stop being jealous." The words landed like a blow. She wiped her face again, mascara smearing further. "I didn't think you'd take it like this." "How else should I take it?" I asked. "You lied. Repeatedly. You chose him over me every time you left the house and every time you hid the truth." "I didn't choose him," she whispered, but it sounded weak even to her. I leaned forward, speaking slowly so every word reached her clearly. "If you didn't choose him, why did you keep going back?" She froze, completely. A silence stretched across the table so thick it felt physical. Her mother sank back into her chair, shaking her head in disbelief. Her father stared at his plate, struggling to process the daughter he thought he knew. My wife opened her mouth, then closed it, her lips trembling. Her eyes darted between all of us like she was drowning and no one was jumping in. Because I felt invisible," she whispered finally. "He made me feel seen." The sentence echoed in the room like a confession she hadn't meant to say out loud. Her brother muttered something under his breath. Her mother started crying softly. Her father looked like someone had knocked the air out of his chest. And I just sat there, still, quiet, tired. "Then you should have told me you didn't want this marriage anymore," I said. She shook her head fiercely. "I didn't say that. I don't want to lose you." "You already did," I said. Her breath hitched again. She looked at me like I had ripped the floor out from under her. But this wasn't revenge. It wasn't rage. It wasn't spite. It was realization. Mine, hers, everyone's. And the truth had only just started to settle. She stared at me with this stunned, broken expression, like she couldn't understand how everything slipped through her fingers so fast. Like she still believed there was a version of this moment where she could cry her way out, or twist the story, or blame my silence, or blame my jealousy, or blame anything except the evidence sitting on her parents' dining table. But there was no escape now. Not with her bracelet on display. Not with the photos. Not with the receipt. Not with the note. Not with her own father looking at her as though he didn't recognize the woman sitting across from him. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing what was left of her makeup into streaks. "Please," she whispered, voice breaking. "Please don't do this. We can fix this. We can talk. I made mistakes, okay? I didn't sleep with him. I wasn't going to." Her brother scoffed loudly. Her mother closed her eyes like she was trying not to cry again. Her father shook his head slowly, deeply, with a sadness that felt heavier than anger. But I didn't look at them. I kept my eyes on her. "You didn't have to sleep with him for it to be betrayal," I said quietly. She flinched like the words stung. Maybe they did. Maybe they were the first true thing she'd heard in months. "You could have stopped the first time you lied," I continued. "You could have stopped at the second, or the 10th. But you kept going. And every time you walked out that door, you made another choice." She opened her trembling mouth, but nothing came out. "I didn't think you'd find out," she whispered finally. I thought it would fade out. I thought it would stop on its own." "Things don't stop on their own," I replied. "People stop them." She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting together, knuckles white with tension. She was falling apart, but not because she regretted what she'd done. She regretted losing control of the story. "What do you want me to say?" she asked suddenly, desperation edging her voice. "Do you want me to beg? Do you want me to promise I'll change? Do you want me to admit I was lonely? I don't even know why I did half of it. I needed something. I felt stuck." "So you lied to the one person who actually cared," I said. She stared at me, breathing shallow, like each inhale was a fight. "I care," she said weakly. "I care about you." "You cared about attention," I corrected. "You cared about feeling wanted. You cared about escaping your own boredom. But you didn't care about me." "I did," she insisted, voice cracking. "I do." Her father let out a low sound of disappointment. Her mother shook her head again, whispering, "Oh, sweetheart." My wife reached for my hand again, this time slowly, carefully, like touching me too fast might shatter the last fragile thread between us. "Please," she said, "we can rebuild. We can talk to someone. I'll cut him off. I'll delete everything. I'll do whatever you need." It might have sounded sincere to someone who didn't know better. Someone who hadn't watched her lie with a straight face and call him paranoid. Someone who hadn't listened for months as she dismissed every concern with a laugh or an eye roll. Someone who hadn't found proof she didn't even bother hiding. But I wasn't that someone anymore. I pulled my hand back again. Not harshly, not angrily, just firmly. Finally, she froze. Completely. Like she just realized the last life preserver she was reaching for wasn't there anymore. "I'm not rebuilding something you walked out of long before today," I said. Her lips trembled. "So that's it?" she whispered. "You're just done." "Yes," I said. "I'm done." Her mother covered her mouth. Her brother closed his eyes. Her father nodded slowly, like he understood even though he hated the truth of it. My wife leaned back in her chair and let out a sound, half sob, half disbelief. "You can't do this," she whispered. "Not here. Not like this." I looked around the table, at the food untouched, at the family crushed under the weight of what she'd done, and then back at her. "Here is exactly where this should happen," I said. "Because these are the people you lied to through me. These are the people you used as excuses. These are the people who kept believing you were better than this." She shook her head, tears streaming, hands shaking. "Please," she begged. "I can fix this." "You can't fix something you don't admit," I said. "And you're still not admitting it." She opened her mouth to argue, and then closed it again. She had nothing left to say, nothing left to twist, nothing left to weaponize. The truth had cornered her completely. I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back with a soft scrape. Everyone watched me. Even she did, eyes wide and terrified. I picked up the small wooden box, closed the lid gently, and tucked it under my arm. Not because I needed the evidence anymore, but because it was mine. I turned toward the door. She shot up from her chair so fast it nearly fell over. "Please don't go," she choked out. "Please." I paused at the doorway, looked at her one last time. The woman who once made me laugh. The woman who once made me dream. The woman who now looked like a stranger wearing my wife's face. "You told me to stop being jealous," I said quietly. "So I did. There's nothing left to protect." She sank back down, sobbing into her hands. I stepped outside into the cool afternoon air. Her father followed me halfway to the driveway, stopping just short of touching my shoulder. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "You deserved better." "So did you," I replied. He nodded slowly. "Take care of yourself, son." I got in my car and closed the door. Through the window I could still see her family inside. Her mother crying softly, her brother pacing, her father standing stiff and disappointed, and my wife collapsed in her chair like a child who finally learned that consequences don't disappear just because you're afraid of them. I started the engine, and as I drove away I didn't look back. Not once. Because sometimes the quietest exit is the one that leaves the loudest echo. If you want more stories like this, subscribe.